Good day riding Sidesaddle. It is Lisa.
And Tammy.
Usually you start
cousin.
out lately.
Yeah.
So I had to I'm on it. Today I'm taking it.
That's it.
Change it up a little bit.
A little bit.
Good day.
Good day.
Riding Sidesaddle.
Wow.
Here we are.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever said good day before.
Never.
Either. Sounds a little English.
So I like to mix it up sometimes,
Okay.
when I'm sending an email, sometimes at work, I'll say greetings!
Oh,
Exclamation
you
point.
do.
I do.
I normally skip the greeting and go straight into it.
Like, greetings. Good day.
No.
You don't do any of that?
No.
Oh.
No. Here's the stuff you wanted.
Oh, well, I feel like there's some
more like that.
creativity in my salutation.
Oh.
It kind of sends a message
Got it.
before the actual message
Got it.
goes.
Most of the people on my team are not really they're not really feeling that kind of creativity. They would just assume you just don't.
What would happen if you just write it in there? Greetings. Here we are.
I'm
Greetings.
not sure that would go over all that well, actually.
Really?
No, I one time said to my boss, when I first started working with him, he had to walk past my desk and I said, "Good morning." And he got to his door and he stopped and he turned around and he said, "Yeah, what's so good about it?" And he slammed his door. So we don't do greetings.
Oh, heavens.
We just don't.
Wow.
Not in email or any other way. You just don't do it.
That would
You pass in the hall, maybe a nod, maybe a wave.
make my life more sad. You got to have a good salutation to start it out sometimes. So good day, riding
Good day
Sidesaddle
it is.
listeners.
We're a couple of cousins sitting in a Jeep.
Talking bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Your jacket's a little shifty.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, am I making noise?
I can hear it.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if
I'll
it's
have to
just
stop.
me.
I'll have to stop moving.
Yeah, you're kind of like a helicopter over there.
It's a little chilly today.
It is. It is.
I should have wore a long sleeve shirt instead.
Well,
you get swish.
live and learn.
There'll be a little swishing happening. Sorry.
You're getting a little bit of the real shit that happens behind the scenes today.
Yeah.
Why? It's a special episode.
Is it?
Yes. Tammy, it is.
Do tell.
We are celebrating our freaking 1 year
We are.
of publishing.
Yeah.
And doing this,
Yeah.
which is
Riding Sidesaddle has been on the air for a whole year.
yeah. I mean, I know it's not probably 52 exact weeks.
No, it's not 52
because
weeks.
we've done a little breaks in between, but it's damn close.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
So we've recorded something.
44, 48, I don't know,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Well, plus we had snacks too. Usually we'll have
Also
a snack
true.
put out there during our breaks.
Yeah.
So honestly, it is 52 weeks.
Pretty close.
Damn. And she's not
Happy
sick of me yet.
anniversary. Happy
Thanks.
anniversary.
Thanks. That's a nice greeting.
That's a nice greeting.
So I don't know if I had been able to think about what it might look like at a year old. Had you?
I don't know that I even tried to think about it, honestly.
Yeah, I was just like, "Hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
Come, let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do this." And I keep bugging you.
Yeah. Well,
It kind of
not
was
that you're
way.
bothering me, but you are more of a planner than I am. So right. So I just don't think about it far enough in advance. And you have so many great contacts with people who they're focused on helping women in particular, not exclusively, but for our purposes, they're focused on helping women. We had Pam, we had Erica. I don't even want to name them all because I'll leave somebody out, but you know what I mean? That is their focus. It's their career. I don't have as many contacts like that.
Yeah,
so I don't,
definitely.
most of the time I just don't even know. I don't even know what to think it might be because I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's not where I was going. I guess I was just kind of like, I don't know that I was, while I was imagining, right, and like visualizing and picturing what it might look like in my head in a year, I don't even know that I did that.
Yeah, I didn't
right?
do that.
And that I think in part is why this kind of blows my mind a little bit that we are sitting here at a year to be able to say, first off, we fucking did it.
It took us a whole year to do it, but we did it.
Yes. Well, it took
And
us
we've
a
done
year
it for a year.
Right. A year
Yeah.
of planning and then a year of publishing.
Right.
So really we've been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I
Gosh.
was nervous. I know,
Does
right?
not seem like 2 years.
Like a full-on fucking relationship commitment here. I mean, you were stuck with me anyway, but not every week.
No.
No. Like that's a lot.
Right. Well, the first year we met virtually.
Yes, that's true. We did.
Now we meet in person and have been for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which when we miss one for
Yeah.
vacations or
Right.
somebody's sick or
Right.
just,
Or it's just
you know,
a break.
life is
Yeah.
like too crazy right now. God,
Right.
I fucking miss you.
I know.
Like I Jones for some Tammy time.
Right. Right. I totally agree. It just doesn't feel right.
Mm-mm.
No. Mm-mm.
Who would I do all my bitching to? If we didn't meet every
I don't
week?
know. I'm not
Like,
sure.
Probably nobody. Literally just me talking
Your
to
thumbs
myself.
would be all,
Oh yeah, bloody.
yeah.
Yes.
From texting.
Text
Yeah.
blisters for
Yeah.
sure.
That's funny.
Uh,
A
so
year.
so I was thinking on the way here, gosh, life just looks so different than it did for me personally from a year ago.
Yeah, it does.
Like drastically different.
Right.
And I was just, I guess just thinking about like what a difference a year makes. Right. So last September, I'm trying to like mentally go back now. So last September, I mean, clearly this was like the big thing.
Yeah.
A big commitment that was starting in our lives, in my life specifically. Husband, super supportive of it. He started listening, like really, really supportive, sharing out my podcasts. That's dwindled a little, I would have to say. He did listen to his own.
He did,
Yeah,
did he?
he did. He
He's
had,
such a Leo.
right? He's like, I didn't sound so bad. Like, no, you were fine. But still absolutely super supportive. I mean, when you have 52 episodes, he's not going to be able to listen to everyone.
No.
But he does, ask about who's coming on and what we're talking about and stuff like that. So that's kind of nice. I'll say that 2023 has given me a run for my
For your money.
a run
For
for
sure.
my money. And I'm extremely proud of myself for continuing to do this
Yeah.
amongst
It
everything
would
else
have been
that
really
has been
easy
going
for
on.
you to say, I'm way too busy. I'm too stressed. I'm too fill in the blank
Yeah.
and just not do it.
Well, trust me, and I have thought it a number of times, but then I went back to some of the conversations that we had with Todd up front to say, you know what? If you're in this, you're in
you
it.
have to be in it.
Like you can't
Right.
skip around and you can't expect that people will listen if
Right.
you miss a week or two or if it's not on the same day there has
Right,
to
you
be some
can't be
level of
willy-nilly about it.
consistency.
Yeah.
Right. So so that was really
So you
important.
push through.
Yeah, well, I told you I'm kind of a stubborn bitch
Yeah,
when
well,
it comes to that
came
kind
in
of
handy
thing.
then.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah, that came in handy.
Sometimes it does.
I think it also, for me anyway, it is the one consistent piece of self-care that I do.
That too.
It is. It's the one thing I do for myself that is basically not negotiable.
Well, and it's probably because, and me too, right? I'm in that boat too. And it's because I have somebody who is relying on me, right?
For sure.
I've made that commitment to somebody else.
Yep.
And that is what keeps me solid.
Right. So while Josh has become supportive over the course of this year, he didn't start out that way.
Mm-hmm.
For him, it was about, honestly, a lot of it had to do with money. It's not free to do these podcasts.
No, it's not.
I mean, there's money involved in actually, the whole podcast piece of it, but then we also spend money, right? We have
out to
dinner, we have a drink or two.
I mean, planning sessions are not free.
They're not free. They're not free. And it's one more, not only is it one more expense, but it's one more meal out.
Right.
And that's a big deal to Josh. Not that we don't ever go out for dinner, we do, but he said, if we go out for dinner once or twice a week and you're going out once a week too, now that's 3 times a week for you, and that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So it was, it actually took him a little bit to get on board. And once he realized that, well, number one, I'm doing it anyway. You can be mad about it or not, but I'm still doing it. I think that was part of it. Part of it also was...
I mean, that helped.
It did. Part of it was also, he realized how much I need this for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he got supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been some change in that way too. This really is it's not negotiable until you and I decide
right.
we aren't doing this anymore.
Right.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to figure out how to live with it because I'm doing it.
Right. Because the decision's made.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you started in on some conversation about the guests that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And there've been a lot. Like we've been bringing guests in since season 1. Probably not as much quite at the beginning as we did throughout the course of the rest of the year. But one of the really important values for both of us has been to understand and talk about physical health, right? Like our first episode was talking about wellness.
Yeah.
And what physical health looks like. Mm-hmm. So I feel really happy that we were able to tap on different resources to be able to have conversations that are either not discussed because they're uncomfortable, not discussed because we just don't fucking realize and know or make connections on things. And it's taught me a great deal in the last year about things that perhaps I should know and I don't.
Right. It also, for myself, it has made me realize that not taking care of my physical health is affecting my mental health. Yeah. It is affecting my quality of life. I'm 52. Stuff starts to hurt. Yeah. Right? It just does. Part of that is perimenopause. Part of it is just being older. And from pretty much my whole adult life, I've just managed it. Right. I'll just take some Advil. I'll get an ice pack. I'll get a heating pad. I'll just manage it. And it's come to a point where I've realized that I'm not doing myself any favors. In fact, I'm probably hurting myself a lot. And I am absolutely impacting my quality of life. And I'm not living the life that I want to live. And all of those realizations have been because of this podcast. Great. It's pretty spectacular.
Now you're going to make me cry. right away. Wow.
Because of the people that you have brought on. I didn't know any of those people. I mean, I knew Catherine, but I think that's really the only person that I knew outside of our kids, right?
Yeah.
Prior to writing Sidesaddle. So I'm taking a little bit from each of those people and I'm applying it to myself. That is an unintended side effect, unintended consequence and benefit of doing this podcast. That was, I set out to do it to help other people. I didn't realize I was going to help myself.
Well, and I think from the physical wellness perspective, the way you're talking about it, right? Learning and recognizing and self-identifying things within your own self, super important. I agree. I've also done very similar types of things, but goddamn, also like some of those self-discovery types of conversations that we have been having.
Absolutely.
Physical wellness, yes. Mental wellness, emotional wellness, 100,000%. Like we got to the point where it's like, ooh, that's a good topic, but shit, I can't talk about that because it is so raw for me.
Right.
Right. For me
Right.
personally,
Sure.
maybe in a year, and not a year, maybe in a couple of
Maybe
months or 3 months,
point.
but
Yeah.
ooh, not right now because that's some serious shit and it really goes deep for me.
Yeah. Right.
So I feel that 100% in all of the ways. It has been, I think we've said this before, like the ripple, the intention of what we're doing is to create a ripple of acknowledgement, of understanding, of knowledge for lots of people.
Absolutely.
Right? In lots of different situations.
For sure.
Specifically focused on women because that's who we are. But the benefit has been equal or greater for myself personally.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more grateful for that.
Right. I totally agree.
Pew.
So selfishly, this has been great
This
for
has been
me. This has been great for me.
Agree. Agree. So, yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. So if you have something, you can just pop right in there.
All right. I don't really know. I don't know what to say. In part, I think because, again, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just going with the flow, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of how I am, though. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie. So I was very nervous to begin.
Yeah.
Putting my words out where people can throw them back at me, like that was scary to me. I remember when you said, whenever someone starts off a conversation like that, my stomach always, like, it drops out. Mm-hmm. Oh God, what did I say? And now am I going to have to backpedal or,
defend what I had to say.
Defend what I said. Yeah. And right.
Justify.
And, right. This podcast has also built my confidence in that way that, number one, I don't have to justify. Number two, I don't have to defend everything I say. And number three, sometimes it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
Sometimes I may have to go back and say, when I said that, I did mean what I said, but I have since learned and realized something else that has now caused me to change my point of view. And that's okay too.
100%.
Right. So it's not so scary to me.
Yeah. To be able to put yourself out into the world.
Right.
That was a big deal for you.
That was huge.
That was part of our 1 year of planning.
Absolutely.
Because you weren't ready to do that. It was a real fear.
It was, right. And that's all based on judgment. So we just recently had Catherine talking about fear, and judgment is really at the root of where that fear comes from. Mm-hmm. And that was a very big piece for me. What are people going to think? What if I say something stupid and people are then going to think I'm stupid? What if this person hears it? What if that person hears it?
Right.
How is it going to look? How will that affect my life? All of it was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
So now I think I've moved through that in large part. And then when I start to think about what the whole next year looks like, it becomes very overwhelming. And then I think, oh, maybe this isn't going to work. And the gremlins start coming in. So I don't like to look ahead. Mm-hmm. That's too scary for me.
Interesting. It's probably why we work.
It probably
honestly, because I'm always kind of like, okay, we got to start thinking ahead. We got to start, working this out and working out the details to make all of that happen. So I'm often looking forward.
And it's not that I can't get there, but when I'm doing it by myself, I take big giant leaps and I see all of this empty space in between. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll never be able to fill all of that. We'll have a whole year. We don't know enough people we don't know 52 people
Girl, we
who can
blab.
fill us.
We just fucking blab so much.
Right. But I skip the like next week or the next month,
Yeah.
even the next season.
Right.
And I go straight to a whole year from now, we'll be dead in the water. We've got
Oh.
nothing. So don't even start.
Oh. So
I can't look that far ahead. But when you say, so we need to start thinking about this, and then I can have some ideas and I can participate.
Right.
Because it's very contained.
right.
You are a facilitator by trade. You've been trained that way. You keep it very small and contained. I just go straight to all the way to the
Too
end.
big. Too big.
Yes. Right.
Abort mission.
Exactly. Exactly. Too much. Can't do it. Shut off.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. And it goes to some of the things that Catherine had talked about with perfectionism as well.
Yep.
And I also have some of those characteristics to say, if I can't do it well enough, I'm not going to bother doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to fail at this.
Yeah.
And that is what I had less fear of judgment at the beginning.
Right.
I had more fear of failure. I don't want to put myself out and get like super excited about this and tell other people. And,
Right.
and all of a sudden, what if it doesn't work then? What if we can't keep it going? What if it flops? What if nobody listens? What if it's a complete failure? Then what? Okay. Then what?
So I tried it, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Someone over the weekend just said to me, well, if you're still doing your podcast, and I said, yeah, we're still doing it. It wasn't, and he didn't say it in a judgmental way.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like well, if you're still doing it, then this. And I don't even remember the whole context of that conversation. But I do remember him saying, well, if you're still doing your podcast, not in a, surely that's not still happening.
Right, because that was stupid.
Right. There was zero judgment.
Yeah.
In his tone, in the way he said it, whatever he said, that is not the impression that I was left with. But that comes from me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody will say, are you still doing your podcast?
Be like, yeah, you should be listening. If you
Well, sometimes
let me send you a link.
To be fair, people then have said, oh, I didn't think you were because I haven't been getting the posts on Facebook.
Dang it.
Right. So they didn't know to then just go look for it.
Got it. Well, seriously,
But they were
look
not
for
but
it.
they were not again asking out of judgment.
Right.
It really was I get it, but in the context of this conversation, for me that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like there would have been a point where I would have heard that question and thought, why are you asking me that? You think it's stupid?
Right.
You think this is dumb? You think I shouldn't do it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Is it matching up with the
Why
gremlins?
are you really asking?
Right.
Yeah. As opposed to it just being a question.
Right.
And in that particular conversation, she was asking the question because she wasn't getting the Facebook post that was giving her the answer that she was looking for.
So you were building in story around
Absolutely.
around what that could
I
have been
could
1,000
have.
different ways.
I could have been
Right.
building a story.
Right.
Instead, I just heard the question and answered it, and I didn't allow there to be room for my own junk
Yeah.
getting in the way of
Yeah.
what she was really asking was, I haven't seen your post.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's been some personal growth, I think, in lots of areas for me.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
So you had talked a little bit earlier about, being able to say, so if I made a mistake, I made a mistake. I may have felt that way in that moment, but I've since learned.
Right.
It reminded me of the episode that I think we did it with the Catherine. In fact, in season 2, we were talking about, is it intuition or is it like
Trauma.
Yes, trauma response.
Yeah.
That one was a big deal for me because at the point in time when we recorded that episode, that was the question. But I've since realized or been able to put more context around what that trauma response is. And it's actually codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I started to dive in further with that, I was like, oh my God, like that's one of the episodes that we haven't been able to do because it's like,
because it's a little too raw,
too close to home.
Yeah.
Like that's a real problem that I have.
Yeah.
In, brought in from my childhood through my relationships, plural, throughout my adulthood, in different relationships, relationships with my children,
Sure.
my relationship with my husband. And that was tough, right? That was tough to listen back to that and be like, girl, like anybody hearing this, like, could very well say, sister, that's codependency, right? That is not intuition. That is codependency. And that's a real problem.
Right.
So that was hard for me because it was like, oh shit. Well, I guess I learned more about myself in that.
While everyone is watching.
While everyone was watching.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Right. That is part of, it's part of my gremlins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it was hard.
Yeah.
It felt bad. It felt bad, but I can only know what I know. Right. And as I continue to learn and understand more about myself, then I can do things differently. Right. But until then, I can't.
Right. Right. It's, I think this is something that I have, it's the masking, and it's something that I've done my whole life. And when I realize that people can see behind the mask or through the mask, I feel way too vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So like in the context that you're talking about, it is, so I'm A with my mask on when everyone else can see I'm really B with no mask. Mm-hmm. Everyone else can see that it's codependency. It's not trauma and it's not intuition. It's codependency. It's like, peeking behind the curtain when I'm not ready for someone to peek.
You're too vulnerable feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my flaws are on display.
Right.
Well, they are. They just are. And what I've learned, and like most lessons, I have to learn them more than once. People see behind the mask all the time.
Agree. It's very similar to, having fear, right? And people looking in from a third person perspective are like, ooh, sister, like you're not moving forward because you're afraid, but you yourself have justified the shit out of everything and logicked like up and down and left and right and feeling real confident in all of the stories and the bullshit you've told yourself. But everybody else can kind of see it's like, yep, you're just too afraid. Mm-hmm. And that's okay too.
Right. I think all of these things are very human experiences.
It's authenticity.
It's not just the two of us who are doing these things or feeling this way.
Right. It is the collective removing the mask.
Yeah. Ooh, that feels big.
It's authenticity. It is vulnerability.
It is vulnerability. Phew. The first time I read Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, was with my friend Caroline. We did it like a book club, one chapter at a time. And she uses the word vulnerable in that book a lot. Mm-hmm. And man, every time it made my stomach clench. I mean, like instant stomach ache. And that was the first time I realized that I had a real issue being vulnerable, which is why I always thought I had a mask on. I didn't even realize I was doing that until I read that book. So when your stomach hurts, that might be something you got to work on.
Right.
Right? And it's okay to be vulnerable. And it's okay to let people actually see you without a mask.
Well, it's a defense mechanism,
Oh, absolutely.
right? I need to feel safe.
Yep.
So being vulnerable, exposing my belly, does not allow me to feel safe.
Right. Right.
So
It opens me up to judgment
Right.
and criticism
Right.
and judgment and judgment.
and criticism.
Right. Right.
Throw a little judgment in there.
Did I mention judgment?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Do you know how heavy it is to carry that around?
I do.
Yeah.
I do in my own way.
Sure. Everybody does.
Yeah. I think it's probably different. Each person's individual but feeling on it, or approach, or how you mask, or
Sure.
where your threshold of vulnerability is.
Right.
Like all of those are very,
It's very
personal and
personal.
unique.
Sure.
But we all feel that.
Right. Absolutely. But we don't have to carry it around is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's way too heavy.
It is way too heavy. I think that we're going to be having some episodes coming up in our 5th season talking about mental health and anxiety.
Yep.
Really comes into this level of vulnerability and feeling unsafe and judged and criticized and those types of things. Like, yes, it is a unique thing for every person. It is also a something that I don't think as a society we talk about and understand how it truly impacts people.
Right.
There's a spectrum, right? And then there's an extreme on the spectrum, and mental health and anxiety, social anxiety and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it impacts people from an activity of daily living.
Absolutely.
Type of,
it absolutely does.
right.
Yeah.
It can
It impacts your functionality.
It can stop someone in their tracks.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is, we had Dr. Erica from
Grounded Roots.
Yep. Chiropractic, talking about your central nervous system and all of the things that it does and why it's important for that to be, your number one priority in getting that and or maintaining that whole system, getting it in place and maintaining it. So I started seeing a chiropractor also.
Yay!
Dr. Erica is not close enough for me to see her regularly. Yeah. So she did give me a referral to somebody closer to me. And when they did the initial workup, before they start treatment, they have to figure out what's going on, right? They're not just going to be willy-nilly about this. So the scans showed that my central nervous system is basically not regulated starting from the top and ending at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's the way it was described to me was, so at the top of your spine and the bottom of your spine, that's where your brake pedals are. Yours are not engaged.
Ooh.
So they're just flopping around out there.
Yeah.
It's no wonder I'm worn out. I have brain fog. I am worn out that'd be good if I were worn out,
right.
Honestly.
Right.
I'm so far past worn out, it's not even funny. I'm now at a point of sometimes exhaustion. I'm not even functional.
Right.
Honestly. So it's absolute exhaustion. And I didn't realize that is in part because my central nervous system is not being cared for.
Mm-hmm.
So the dysregulation is there. The anxiety, depression, all of those things come into play. It's not the only reason. It's not the reason. It's
right.
a reason
right.
for all of that stuff to be happening. Then throw in perimenopause and that stuff comes into play anyway. It's just like layer on top of layer on top of layer.
And then life stress, right? Work stress, life stress, something like things are going wrong or different, having to manage different challenges.
Or just more
right.
of something, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So there are so many reasons, when we think at least when I think about mental health care, I feel like, oh, it's, chemical imbalance. There's, something like that going on. Maybe it's a nutritional deficiency or something like that. Those are probably reasons too, right?
Absolutely.
It never occurred to me that my spine health
Right.
was one of the reasons why I was feeling anxious and depressed and
Right.
exhausted and, all of those things.
And it could also be trauma, right?
For sure.
Like just a traumatic experience sends over and over, and it sends you down the rabbit hole.
For sure.
Yeah.
There are so many reasons, right?
100,000 reasons.
I don't think, because we are pretty slow as a society and really paying attention to mental health care, I don't think we've connected all of the dots in all of the ways that our bodies need to be functioning in order to care for our mental health. It's almost like that comes last, right?
Well, it's
even
invisible.
Though your brain, right, but your brain is, the mothership. We need to be taking care of that.
I 100% agree. But if you look at somebody from the outside, right, you're outside looking in, you can tell if they have a limp or a broken bone or,
Absolutely.
in a wheelchair or a brace. You can see something physically is taking place with an individual. You cannot see directly when a mental health crisis is taking place.
No.
When somebody is having extreme anxiety and cannot function.
Right.
Those are things that we don't know how to deal with.
Right. Because
we don't see it.
Right.
And I don't want to jump too far into that.
No,
I recognize what I'm doing. And I don't want to lose our kaboom when we have the episode. So
no, I get it. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't disagree.
I think Scott, he may have been one of the first ones on writing Sidesaddle to say it's never just one thing.
Accurate.
Right? It's multiple things.
Yes.
So it, again, layer on top of layer on top of layer.
Yes, most definitely. And circling back, right, to our original point, leaving yourself in a vulnerable state.
Yeah.
To show the world who you truly are. God, that's a hurdle for the best of us.
Right.
It is.
When all systems are go.
Right.
Yeah. Right. My systems are not go right now. They're not go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a year. That's it.
I feel so. Some of the things that you had shared recently, I took to heart that people who listen regularly, I think one of your friends had said, "Oh, I feel like I know Lisa."
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I've had similar conversations about the podcast and people who haven't met you directly. When it was your birthday in April, people who only know you by the podcast, I truly feel like there was a connection made with those people and you. I mean, you are the sweet one of the two of us. So I understand how that happened. But
golly, people are in trouble if I'm the sweet one.
Yeah. Well, what does that say about me then? She is really the sweet. Just ask Josh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, ask Josh. No, you probably shouldn't ask Josh. He does speak highly of me. So, just side story. I have talked about my neighbor, Sandy, older lady in my neighborhood. Yeah. Well, I had a call from her daughter. I don't know, it was recently, and she was, poor Sandy. So they have somebody who comes in who helps take care of her during the day.
Okay.
And makes sure that she gets to her appointments and gets groceries and takes her medicine and, makes dinner and, things like that. So, I mean, she's functional on her own, but she's had some strokes. So her memory isn't that great. And, just someone just to make sure that, things are okay. And we don't want her, walking down the basement stairs alone and nobody's checking on her and stuff. So, So I get a call and, the caregiver had a family emergency that day.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have been terrible for Sandy, except she had a nail appointment already scheduled.
Okay.
And it was in half an hour.
Yeah.
And Sandy was beside herself because she didn't want to cancel at the last minute and, these sorts of things. So I, of course, you know what, it's at noon or whatever, I'm working from home. I can take a lunch break and I'll take her to her nail appointment. And that'll be fine. So I go and pick her up and she's just distraught. She's upset. She's crying. She's had a fight with her daughter about all of this. And she's just a mess. And, to be able to help her out, and she got in the car and I gave her a little squeeze and I said, you know what, it's going to be all right. We have plenty of time to get to your appointment and you'll get your nails done and you'll feel so much better. And the rest of the day will be just fine then. It took her a little bit to come around, but she did. And man, next thing I know, she's telling me about how my husband was at her house doing some electrical work and he's saying all these wonderful things about me.
Aww.
So here I am doing something nice for her, expecting not a gall darn thing in return.
Right.
And she is then telling me how my husband speaks so nicely about me.
Aww.
Right?
That is nice.
That is nice.
How sweet.
Yeah. So, that was one of the things that was important in this podcast too, that ripple of kindness, right?
Absolutely.
Just do something nice for people sometimes. What did it cost me? An hour of my day?
Right.
Big deal.
Right.
Right.
It changed her whole...
It absolutely did. It absolutely did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I found a new nail lady. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I scheduled my own appointment for,
Even better.
another time. Yeah, it was even better. It's in town.
And
I don't
you
have to
found out
drive
how much
far.
your husband loves you from
And
somebody
that.
else.
Right.
I mean, you know how much your husband loves you, but
I do.
It's nice to hear it.
Right?
Right? Especially coming from unsolicited.
Right. Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah. And so she used to refer to me, because she can't remember my name, she used to refer to me as that crazy lady. Now I'm something like, oh shoot, what did she call me? It's not that nice lady. It's something like that though. I've moved off of crazy.
Well, that's
now,
good.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know what you did to hold the previous title.
I don't either. I have no idea.
What was Josh saying about you then?
Yeah, right. I should have. I didn't make that connection. I don't think he had been there, so I don't think it was him. This was all her. She came up with that on her own.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So, it's been a year.
It's been a year.
It has been hard work. It has been 100,000% rewarding.
Absolutely.
It has been learning lessons between the two of us.
Yeah.
As well as our own individual lessons. We've gained a lot of new friends.
Yes.
I have more friends now than I think I ever had in my whole life. Any friend put together, like all of
your friends put together.
Yes. For the first 49 years, I have more friends than all of those now.
That's awesome.
Which is crazy to me because I am not that nice. I'm just not used to all these friends.
Well, I don't think it's that you're not nice. You are truly an introvert.
I am.
So you just don't put yourself, that whole vulnerable thing,
That's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And I can hear it when I listen back to recordings. Like I will shy away from getting into the nitty gritties of stories, right? And all of a sudden I'm saying, oh, well, we had this opportunity. Well, say what the fucking opportunity was, right? And like I skim past it because I'm like, ooh. I'm not ready to share all of that. So that's hard for me. That's really hard for me. It is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, your curtain is like pulled real tight.
It is.
Real tight.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about it. And, I have mentioned a few times now in the last year how really 2023 has rocked my world. And in part, I haven't...
Not like Amadeus?
No, not in a good way at all.
No.
In part, I haven't shared details of it because... These are things that are impacting me, but they aren't necessarily my things to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to inadvertently create a unsafe space for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I will though. I'm talking to
When the time is right.
Yeah, I'm talking to the people that are impacted, and when they are ready to share that level of information, then I can do that. But I'm also acknowledging the fact that I just need to crack the door open a little bit.
Maybe you could let the seam out a little. Your curtain.
Right. It is my absolutely guarded self.
Mm-hmm.
People who meet me for the first time, and I've become, lifelong friends with now, have said the first time that I met you, or the first few times, it's really hard. You're aloof. It's really hard to get to know you. You're very, detached. And it's true. Like, I am. It's
not
a
that
leap.
you're not nice. It is, you are just detached.
I'm guarded until I feel safety.
Yeah.
And that can come across as detached, or aloof, or just very unemotional, perhaps. I don't think I'm unemotional on the podcast, but as things, as people are introduced to me for the first time,
that's how you appear to them.
Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh God, I wish you'd go back to that. You're a little too much, girl. You are a little too much. I'm like, you asked for it, bitch. Well, sorry.
You pushed.
Now
you get what you get.
I mean, then you're going to be stuck in a Jeep like once a week with me for a whole fucking year. That's what you get. Right. You asked for it.
This is what you wanted.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
What you wish for.
That's right.
I wish I saw my cousin more. Gulp.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
Well, that's that.
So, because, again, when I start thinking about what the next year looks like, I see a lot of blank. Just a dark abyss. I have no idea what that looks like, and it scares the hell out of me. So, if any of our listeners have things that you would love for us to talk about, please do tell us.
Yes.
We are open to ideas and suggestions. If there's somebody you think that we need to meet.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
And, bring them in the Jeep. We're happy to meet new people. Lisa has apparently a lot of friends, but there's room for more.
There is. Probably not a lot of friends in relation to everybody else in the world, but for me, it's a lot of friends.
Right. But we're open to more. So please do. If you have a topic, if you have, again, somebody that you think would be a great, well, we call them experts.
Yeah.
We're happy to open up to ideas and new people.
That's a great idea. Let's start soliciting that.
Yeah, for sure. What do you want to hear from us?
It's a ripple, right?
Is,
it doesn't necessarily all have to come from us.
No.
Yeah,
in fact, it shouldn't all
idea.
come from us.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, we can talk about things from our perspective, but one of the things that was really important to us when we started this was to bring other perspectives in.
Yes.
We know what we think. We want to hear what other people think.
Yes.
We want to hear what other people are interested in.
I love that.
Yeah. So please do send us a message. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Riding Sidesaddle, the podcast. We have email, ridingsidesaddlepodcast@gmail.com. Those are the places you can find us. Our podcast itself is Spotify and YouTube and all the places you get your podcast. We're still not on Apple Podcasts, but
I don't know that we ever will be. And at this point, it doesn't even fucking matter.
Well, I don't know. Whatever. Maybe, who knows? It took us almost a whole year to get on Instagram. So it could happen.
That's fair.
I've looked into it a couple of times and it's overwhelming. So
it's the black abyss.
It kind of is. There are so many steps and you need multiple screens. And
too much.
It is too much.
Shut the fuck down.
It is too much. One day when I'm feeling a little better, I'll have a little more zip and a little more focus and I'll get there.
Fantastic.
All right.
That's that then.
That's that. So
thanks for hanging with us, friends.
Right?
It's been a wild ride and just
been
a ton of fun. And I'm really grateful for all of you who
Absolutely.
have continued to listen.
Gosh.
And spread the word and shared with your friends.
Right.
We appreciate you.
Absolutely, we do. We also appreciate Todd.
That's what we do.
Maybe if we're extra lucky and all the stars align and we just had a blue moon, but maybe if we have another one, he might agree to be on our show and y'all can meet him too, because he's pretty terrific.
Something?
It would be something.
He is spectacular.
He is. So thanks, Todd, for also sticking with us for the last 2 years. From when we first had the idea, and I was afraid to ask him to help us out, even though I knew he already had a podcast company and several of his own podcasts. I didn't want to be a bother. I didn't want to, didn't want to be a burden. And he has just been
amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So thanks, Todd.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, here's to year 1. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ding.
With, no alcohol in my hand, but cheers to that.
All right. Till next year then.
Bye.
Bye.